Welcome to the Pulpit View podcast. My name is Stephen Garrett. With over 20 years of experience in leadership, family, and ministry, I've asked some brothers to come join me and have a conversation of what it takes to bring balance to each. Why don't you join me on this journey? Let's go. Good evening, good evening, good evening, good evening. Hope you have had a beautiful start of the year. Let me know as you come in if you can hear me. Hope everything is going well. I am grateful that you made it over into a whole nother year. We're excited to have you on the first episode for this year, 2026, of the Pulpit View. Some exciting things are ahead. And as we are preparing to go into this year, I want to challenge you to really give your best this year and not to let anything hold you back or keep you from going after your goals and your passions this year. So tonight, as we're getting ready to go live, as we're excited about what's going on, we got a couple of housekeeping things to do. And then we're diving into this conversation tonight because I think it's going to be very helpful to us. I think it's going to be a blessing to those that are in need of those conversations that some aren't willing to have. And so tonight, as we are diving in, we just want to make sure that we give you a moment to come in. And here it is, to share with somebody, because I think this is going to be a blessing for us tonight. Tonight, I want to talk about this idea. I want to talk about this idea of how are you going into 2026, and are you protecting yourself from overload, work overload? One of the struggles that I've seen, talking as a fatherhood coordinator and dealing with other pastors, being in the unique privilege of being the sounding board for a lot of leaders, is discovering that many of us carry over problems from last year into the new year. One of the things that we always say as we close out the year is this year is going to be the year of this, the year of that. We have these resolutions, these promises that we're making ourselves, and we talk about how we're not going to carry over problems, struggles, issues into the new year. But the truth of the matter is, if you are a leader, you know that it's almost impossible to not carry some of the struggles that you dealt with in 2025 into 2006. Let me share with you a few of my things, and then we'll dive into it tonight. As we're going into 2026, one of the main things that's still on my mind is how we are going to equip the body of Christ where I serve to not just lead with a spirit of excellence, but lead with a spirit of unification. This is something that we're working on from last year, that we're going to be working on this year. There are some goals that were set in 2025 that were not accomplished in 2025, but that does not mean that they end because 2025 has ended. There are some things that me and my wife have desired to do that I know that I'm carrying over into this year. One of the things me and my wife had a conversation about today as we did our strategy meeting for the year was the fact that going into 2025, there were so many things that happened that I did not take my yearly vacation. That every year I take about 2 weeks off after my pastor's anniversary, and I get away, hear from the Lord, recover, recoup. But we had so much going on that I felt it was more prudent for me to be present. The church was moving at a very fast speed. We had so many great things going on in the community that I wanted to make sure that the pastor was present during that time. And I broke my own cardinal rule of making sure that I took time and I spent time away. This year, as I realized that I may have allowed myself to not take the time that I needed last year, I also saw closing out that there was levels of and hints of workplace overload that started to hit me, that started to carry a heavy weight on me. And so tonight, as we are getting ready to start 2026. For some, you're still on vacation. Today was my last day of being able to be away from the job. I'll be back at work tomorrow. I got to hit it strong all week long. And so I want to share some things that I learned during the break, some conversations that I had, and see if it can be helpful to you in your ministry and your work. Because not only do we serve those that are in the call, but we serve those that are called to the marketplace as well. And so I want to give you a few things. That I think are going to be helpful tonight. And if you would bear with me, I want you to just stick with me for a moment, and we're going to dive into this tonight. So tonight we want to talk about the first thing that I want to talk about in strategizing to protect ourselves from work overload in 2026 is cultivating personal time. This is pivotal as we go into 2026, because one of the struggles that I experienced as I went into this year was that I allow things to invade my personal time. I allow things to have access that did not deserve the access, that the access was not required. And so I think that one of the struggles that many leaders have when we experience work overload, here it is that we find ourselves losing out on necessary time with self and Christ. So let's expand cultivating personal time. You all know I love the book, Ordering Your Private World. One of the things that Gordon MacDonald says in this phenomenal book, Ordering Your Private World, is that it was one day after being present for everybody else, after being attentive to everybody else, that he recognized that his family was lacking and his spiritual life was lacking. Can I tell you, sometimes when we think of personal time, we only think of time with self. But personal time is not just time with self, but what allows self to have the peace it needs. And so here's what I want to share with you. I want to share with you that if you're going to cultivate personal time, you're going to have to be strategic with your time. You cannot just say today that I'm going to steal away from everybody. Today is so busy, so filled with responsibility that you have to be not just strategic, but here it is, you have to be intentional with the time that you set aside. I want to share that because one of the things that I have done during the break is I have been very strategic with time with God and with time with self. Now, I'm still working to get my time with God to the place that I want it. But here it is. I have taken that early morning time to allow myself to be with God to the point that I tell others that I'm busy. Not only do I set specific time for God, but I set specific time for my health. 4 days out the week, I'm at the gym. Now, why must you cultivate personal time? It is something that you have to spend time with. You're not just creating, but you are building a relationship. Here it is, with having time that is designated for God and for self. I wanted to be very intentional with that word cultivating, because cultivating is connected to relationships. When we are cultivating a relationship, we're building a space to get to know one another, to get to know the intimate parts with each other. That means that I know when my homeboy is down because I can tell it in his attitude and his presence, how he shows up. I know when my wife is off because I can tell by how she greets me. And so what I'm saying is, you're going to have to cultivate time with self and the folk that matter to you. And here's the reason I want to do this, because the Bible says when Jesus before Jesus did a miracle, he would take time with God. Many places in the scripture we hear where he would steal away by himself, but not just did he steal away by himself, he stole away with his disciples. And many times what we find ourselves in with work overload is that we are so gung-ho on getting the mission accomplished that we are not very intentional, strategic, calculating with making sure that the person God has sent to accomplish the mission is prepared to handle the mission. Does that make sense? Because the truth of the matter is, what we have that's going on is we can become so focused on the task that we do not take the time to be prepared for the task. In fact, let me share with you, I was having a conversation with my son. He just took the SAT and he's going to take it again. And so during the time of preparation for the SAT, he got so caught up that he did not get the score he wanted. Didn't get a bad score, but he just didn't get the score he wanted for the SAT, right? And so he was so focused on taking it that when he finally showed up, you know what happens when you get so focused on taking it and you end up spending all of your time focused on one thing. One or two things can happen. Either it can be very helpful to you or it can become detrimental because you have overloaded your mind with facts that by the time you sit down for those facts, it seems like you draw a blank. Here it is. Mark 1:35 says it this way. Now in the morning, having risen long while before daylight, he went out and departed to a solitary place where he prayed. If you are going to develop personal time, you're going to have to set an agenda and make it part of your calendar. If you understand the value of making God not just priority, but making him part of your schedule, I need you to put fire in the chat, because the truth of the matter is most of us treat God as if he's an option when it comes to personal time. We treat him as if he is something that shows up only when, hear me, when problems show up. Can I tell you where I came to this conclusion and why I'm so big on this in 2026? Because last year was very hard. For many of you, it was hard. We had to deal with new regime in the White House. We had to deal with budget cuts to important factions within our community. If you're a pastor, you're serving congregation that were impacted by the furlough, and you're trying to figure out What's the next step? Making sure that you're providing properly, all of these things that you're trying to do. And here's the problem. You didn't have the answer. And so many of us came in prayer to the Lord, searching for the answer, searching for the right words to say. Some of us, because we did not know where the paycheck was coming from, were spending devoted time. And here it is. You found yourself prioritizing God because of the problem. And what I want to challenge you is I want to challenge you to cultivate personal time with God before there's a problem. Work overload happens because, can I be honest? Most work overload happens because we have bad management skills. Most work overload happens. We get behind. Can I tell you, I started off as an architect major. One of the main things known for architect majors were that they were procrastinators, because our creative juices do not flow until we've spent some time in deadlines. We work great in deadlines. Here's the problem. Here's the problem with that. I had one of my classmates. He was never a procrastinator. I didn't know how he did it. He'd be in, and when all of us are coming to the lab, he'd be finishing up, always with a phenomenal piece. Well, I discovered that he had several jobs. He was doing this. So to us, what wasn't procrastination, what was discipline, was really juggling more than he could handle. And this is what he stated with me, that the reason he had to get done early was because he had so much that he had responsibility over. And I want to tell you something. Some of us, we're having struggles with personal time. We're having struggles because we have poor time management skill. And I'm here to tell you, I still suffer with it, and I'm telling you about it. I'm getting better with it. I have placed intentional things. My reading has shifted. My day-to-day walk has shifted because I'm getting better with my time management, but I had to get better with my time management. Here it is, so I could become better at cultivating personal time with the Lord. I got tired. Let me just say it. I got tired of making God an option. Because I realized I didn't want him to make me an option. I want it to be priority. And here it is. I'm not telling you cultivating personal time is going to make you a priority in God. But what I'm telling you is this. There are some friends that when they call, I answer immediately. But then there are other friends that I know, or acquaintances that I know the only reason I'm getting a call is because they need something. And I felt, how would that make me feel? That the only time that I'm calling on you is when I need something. So cultivating personal time is not just about getting away for self, but it's about making sure that you're intentional about spending time with God. Here's the next thing, because I won't be on here long tonight. I want you to get to a place where you are able to enjoy the rest of this beginning of the new year. Here's what we got to realize. If Jesus needed solitude to stay connected to the Father, how prideful must we be to think that we can show up every now and then and have the same impact? So the second thing is, we have to, hear me now. If you are going to protect yourself from work overload, if you're going to protect yourself, I don't care where you are. If you're a pastor that is full time, and your job is to care for the not only the congregations, but the multiplicity of responsibilities your church have. If you are a bivocational pastor and you have some of those tasks, but you also have a job like myself, and you might be one like me and one of my good friends who has several jobs. Tell me if you can still hear me. Who has several jobs. Here it is. You have all these responsibilities that are before you. And you're saying to yourself, how do I handle this? How do I handle this? How do I handle this? How do I handle having so much responsibility? And it seems like I'm getting ready to burn out. I want to protect you from going through things that I've suffered. Here it is. Here it is. You have to create boundaries. You must. Let me not say you just have to, because have to sounds like you got a choice still. You must create boundaries in this season if you don't want to experience overload or burnout. It's necessary. It's necessary. Here it is. Moses' father-in-law may have been the best person in this. Jethro's advice to him was this. He said, the thing that you do is not good. Both you and these people who are with you will surely wear yourselves out. This is Exodus 17 through 18, where he is talking to Moses because Moses has told everyone to come to him with all their problems. And what happened is when Moses opened it up, guess what? Everyone came. And Jethro tells him, this is what I want you to do. This is the wisdom that I want to share with you, and seek the Lord. That's what Moses does. He says, separate them. Out of the 12 tribes, I need you to select these many folk for this, these many folk for this, and these many folk report back to you. And it says that it was blessed. Can I tell you, not everyone should have. I'm about to mess somebody up, because this is not going to be a fan favorite. If you are a pastor, not everyone should have access to you on a regular basis. I'm just going to be honest with you. I'm not even an advocate for armor bearers. I don't think there's nothing wrong with armor bearers, but I'm not one that pushes armor bearers. But I will tell you, I think every church needs to have some members that know the folk that are draining in the church and protect the pastor from those who are draining. Every organization should have people in position that knows what problems should not be brought to the CEO because they can be handled on the lower level. It's tiers to this thing. There are certain things, can I be honest? There are certain things my wife does not let touch my ear. There's certain conversations. She said, don't you bother your father with that. He has too many things that he's worried about right now. And there are certain conversations that I protect her from. Why? Because we have to do better at guarding one another. I'll share it this way. My wife, her workout and my workout are almost sacred to us, right? In the morning, I am leaving every morning at about 6 a.m. to go work out. About 6 a.m. Sometimes I'm late, but most times I'm on time. 6 a.m. I'm out the house. I'm going to meet my trainer. We're at the gym. We're grinding until about 7:30, right? We're getting it. Here's what I'm about to share with you. My wife will not let anyone call me during that time. If I get a call on my cell phone, I know it's valuable. I know it's important for the fact that my wife is not calling that phone unless it's necessary. She has helped me to create a boundary that's necessary. Now, I leave the house to work out. My wife works out at home. She doesn't really like gyms like that, which is just fine. A lot of people don't. I have to help protect her. The other day here, my son was rushing up, mom. And I came out of nowhere because I heard him, and I wasn't even nowhere in the room. And I moved him out of that space so she could enjoy her time. And what I'm trying to share with you is you have to not just create boundaries, but you have to also invite folk in to protect your boundaries. There's some people that understand the boundaries you set and others that will never understand. That's an easy way to weed out who may be eligible for the next season of your life. Some people understand. I've had conversations with deacons of mine. Listen, there's certain times I need to steal away. I need quiet time. They understand and they protect it. What I'm sharing with you is if you don't create the boundaries, hear me, because I fell victim to this. I fell victim to this until I start shifting my mindset. If you don't create your own boundaries, others will cross every boundary. Woo! I'll say it again. If you don't create your own boundaries, others will cross every boundary. What am I trying to tell you? The truth of the matter is, most folk will go as far as you let them. And if you don't have a place where you don't tell them no, then they'll assume it's a yes. They'll assume that you are available. They'll assume that you are present. They'll assume that it doesn't bother you. They'll assume that it is okay. So this year in 2026, we're creating boundaries. We're cultivating private time. Here's the last thing. Catalog your wins. Now I want to give you a scripture for that, creating boundaries. It says, whoever has no rule over his own spirit is like a city broken down without walls. If you don't have boundaries, you are a city inviting others in to your space. Now, hear me. Boundaries are not avoiding responsibility. Boundaries are setting up so you can be present for the responsibilities you have. Here's the last thing, and we're done. I got 3 minutes left. Here it is. Not only must you cultivate personal time, create boundaries. Here's the last thing, and we're out of here. You got to catalog your wins. I need you to do better at cataloging your wins this year. Listen, I'm not telling you to be boastful. I'm not telling you to be prideful. I'm telling you to write down, journal, and keep in front of you your wins. Here's the reason why. Very few people catalog the losses in life. When you go into many parents' homes and some adult people, you'll see the medals that they won. Very, very few times do you see where they came in last place, because there's usually no pomp and stance for last place. First, second, third, right? And even those are wins because that means you beat somebody else. The reality is, most of us in our culture today, we're very aware of the losses, and we're letting others hold our wins up by them being very apparent and very communicative of our losses. And so I need you to understand, God keeps record, and you should too. He says, and you shall remember the Lord, your God led you all the way these 40 years in Deuteronomy 8:2. But here's what Joshua says. Joshua says in his, about chapter 4, I think, that when he crossed over the river Jordan, that they were told to carry 12 tablets and place them at the seashore. You place them in the middle, but you also place them in the seashore. This is what he said. So whenever your children's children come back, you can tell them what the Lord did for you here. Let me be honest with you real quick. Many of us, I fell victim to this. We're letting others write the narrative of our story. And so your successes, no one hears about because you're waiting for somebody else to celebrate it. I know. It says we don't boast of ourselves. You're right. You don't boast of yourself to others, but you better make sure that you're cataloging the wins that God has made in your life. This is what this is what David says. Oh, magnify the Lord with me and let us exalt his name together. For this poor man cried and he heard me. What I'm telling you is David was able to encourage others, not because David was boasting of his wins, but because he was reminding them of how God has showed up time and time again. Let me tell you, if you don't hear anything else tonight, you have to be diligent. You have to be committed to not focusing on the losses this year. You got to be diligent and focused on not focusing on the losses, because the truth of the matter is the losses are easy to focus. Everyone who has ever lost a race, lost a battle, it sits with you. You lost that bid, it sits with you. It has a way of sitting with you. It's the breakup that sits with you the most. It's those times that we feel like failures that sit with us the most. It can have us second guessing ourselves. I had a good friend of mine. He used to tell me, he said, man, I didn't even know I was, I'll share with you what he said. He said, I didn't even know I was handsome until I got to school because no one ever told me. He said, and then I got to high school and all these girls start liking me. And I was like, man, I might be a looker. This is what he shared with me. He said, because I had tried before, but certain things just wasn't hidden. He said, but then something happened, it shifted, and it changed my perspective. The wins are important. The wins are important. Listen to what it says. One of the reasons we gotta, I just want to share this with you and I'm done. One of the reasons we have to catalog the wins is because imposter syndrome is real and it feeds on selective memory. Imposter syndrome tells you don't deserve to be there, that somebody else could do it better. And here's what would happen if you lean into that imposter syndrome. You will miss out on all the times that others would have given up, but you stayed in the race. I want that right now, before I get off, I want to talk to every leader that led through the pandemic. Every marriage that survived something hard that would have taken others out, and you're now happily married. I want to talk to every parent that ever lost a child and you decided not to give up. I want to talk to every business owner that was ready to throw in the towel, but something amazing happened. I want to share this before I get off because I think it's important. The fact that you were able to see it out to the other end means that you deserve the success that you're reaping. And if you're not on the success metric yet, it may be because you don't believe you is deserving. I'll tell you this story and I'm done. I just heard the story of FedEx owner the other day here that some years ago, he was down at his last $5,000 for the company. He owed something like $30,000 to the airlines in fuel costs. And he had $5,000 left in the company. Here's what he did. He took that and literally gambled on himself. The report says he took out a portion. He took out the 5,000, last 5,000 of the company, not his own personal money, the last 5,000 of the company, went down to Vegas, gambled it, made it, lost it, and then made it again on a ditch bet. And he had enough to carry him over until some investors came in and took him all the way out. Just blessed it. Here's the point of my story. He was at the brink of failure and he could have given up. He had enough belief in himself to bet on himself, and you serve God and you're doubting if you can make it through it. 2026 has the capability of being a great year for you. I don't know what it holds, and I don't know the shortcomings. I don't know the trials. I don't know the tests you're going to endure. But I do know if you want to make sure you get through this year without going into overload, here's the 3 things you need, and I'm done. You need to cultivate personal time, not just with the Lord, but with self. Not just with self, but make sure your family feels your presence. Not only must you cultivate personal time, here it is, you must create boundaries. You have to set up systems and strategies that not everyone feel like they have a right into your space when you need to recharge. And then you got to catalog the wins. You have to, please hear me. You must catalog. One way you can catalog the wins. I want to give you a way for each. Be strategic about your time. Plan ahead time, not just with God, but time with self and time with family. And make them non-negotiable. That's the first thing. Creating boundaries. If you're going to create boundaries, you're going to have to stick to them. An easy way to know where you need to create a boundary is to look at a place where you feel the most disrespected and make a decision that you're going to create an environment that does not promote that disrespect. And invite folk in that you trust to help you stand accountable for creating that boundary. And last but not least, cataloging the wins. Start journaling. If you've never journaled, this is the year to journal. For many of us pastors, we write a lot of sermons, but we're poor at journaling. You have to catalog your wins, not just your failures. And make sure that as you're cataloging your wins, you go back and examine that win. So when the failure shows up, because a failure is inevitable, you're going to have times of shortcomings. You're going to have times where it did not work out. But you got to remember that God showed up time and time again. There's been many of times in the Bible where that person felt like God wasn't going to show up. But the testimony is from David, I've been young and I've been old, but I've not yet seen the righteous forsaken. That does not mean David did not have some bad days. It does not mean that he did not have some battles he lost. It meant that the good did outweigh the bad. And so I want to encourage you as we go in 2026. We have some exciting things on the works. We're getting ready to go into the new season of the Pulpit View. I'm excited about it. We have some exciting guests. I'm still being told about how much of a blessing Pastor Hillard was, how much of a blessing Dr. DZ Cofield was. Plan on having them back on in the future. And I want you to stay tuned to what we have coming next. I'm excited for what's getting ready to come, knowing that it's going to take work, it's going to be diligent, it's going to require commitment, but we're up for the task. I hope this year is your best year yet. Be blessed.